All right, today we're going to get into a really fascinating and honestly pretty radical scientific theory about UFOs. It all comes from the work of astrophysicist Jacques Vallée, specifically from his book, The Invisible College. And trust me, it completely flips the script on one of the biggest mysteries of our time. So, let me ask you, when you hear that word UFO, what's the first image that just pops into your head? For most of us, right, it's probably little green men or a classic flying saucer, maybe a giant mothership like something out of a Hollywood blockbuster. It's a picture we all know. But what if that entire picture isn't just a little off, but completely and fundamentally wrong? What if the real phenomenon is something way, way weirder? Something that has less to do with little green men from outer space and a whole lot more to do with the very fabric of our reality. Now, the guy behind this mind-bending theory is Jacques Vallée, and this is so important to get. Vallée is not your typical UFO chaser. The man's a serious scientist. He's an astrophysicist. He has a PhD in computer science, and get this, he helped build ARPANET, which was literally the precursor to the internet. So his whole approach is about data, about patterns, and about rigorous, serious analysis. And that brings us to our first big idea here. A hidden community of scientists who were digging into all of this in total secret. Vallée actually called this group the Invisible College. You can think of it as this unofficial underground network of seriously credentialed scientists. They were all working together in private because the topic of UFOs was, and let's be honest, it still kind of is, so taboo that if they studied it openly, it could have been career suicide. They were literally putting their reputations on the line to chase down the truth. And this group was full of heavy hitters. I mean, besides Vallée himself, you had Dr. J. Allen Hynek, a famous astronomer who started as a major skeptic but became a leading investigator. You had Dr. James McDonald, an atmospheric physicist, and they were joined by all sorts of other experts in psychology, physics, sociology, all of them bringing their A game to this incredibly complex puzzle. So what did this secret college of scientists actually find? Well, their data was just deeply contradictory. On the one hand, they kept finding these really clear, consistent patterns over and over again. It's actually pretty striking how consistent the reports were, coming from all over the world. You have witnesses from totally different cultures, people who've never met, all describing the exact same things, these disc, sphere, and triangular shapes. They talked about the same impossible flight characteristics, like silent hovering and then just instantaneous right-angle turns. And these weren't just random people. We're talking highly credible witnesses, pilots, police officers, even other scientists. But that's where the simple part of the story ends, because right alongside all those consistent, physical-looking patterns, the researchers also found what Vallée started calling high strangeness cases. These were anomalies so bizarre, so absurd, they seemed to break not just our understanding of technology, but our understanding of reality itself. And this is the central conflict in the data. See, on one side, you have what looks like a straightforward problem, physical objects being seen by credible people. But on the other side, you've got reports of maneuvers that just shred the laws of physics. You have psychic events like telepathic communication, and these profound, life-changing psychological effects on the witnesses. So how can both of these things be true at the same time? This contradiction is exactly what forced Vallée to look for a completely new framework, a theory that could somehow explain both the physical and the psychic side of things. So let's compare the two big ideas here. The most popular one, the one everyone knows, is the Extraterrestrial Hypothesis, or ETH. The idea that UFOs are just nuts and bolts spaceships from another planet. But like we just saw, that theory completely falls apart when you try to explain the high strangeness cases. So Vallée proposed something else. The Interdimensional Hypothesis, or IDH. This idea suggests the phenomenon isn't coming from across the galaxy, but maybe from a reality or a dimension that's parallel to our own, one that can poke through into our world in these really strange and unpredictable ways. And here is the absolute key to all of this. For Vallée, the phenomenon isn't just some external thing you look at through a telescope. He argues that it's an event that actively interacts with and is maybe even shaped by the consciousness of the person who's experiencing it. It's not just something you see, it might be something you're actually participating in. So it kind of breaks down like this. First, the event itself seems to have both physical and psychic properties. Then, second, it plugs directly into the witness's mind, which means, third, the final experience is actually co-created. It's a blend of whatever the phenomenon is and our own human perception. And that could explain why two people standing right next to each other might see two totally different things.
So if Vallée's onto something here, what does this all mean? Well, the implications are absolutely staggering, and they completely redefine what it is we're even looking at.
Here is the really big takeaway. Vallée speculates that this whole phenomenon might be a kind of control system. Now, not in a scary, sinister way, but more like a cosmic teaching tool. By showing us things that are absurd, things that defy physics, it forces us to question our assumptions about reality and consciousness. The study of UFOs, then, isn't really about aliens. It becomes a study of ourselves. So that old question, the one that's driven UFO research for decades, where are they from? That might just be the completely wrong question to be asking. It assumes they're visitors from some physical place, and that might be the biggest misunderstanding of all. Instead, Vallée pushes us to ask a new question, one that is so much more profound. What does this phenomenon, in all of its absurdity and all of its strangeness, tell us about the hidden rules of our own universe, the untapped power of our own consciousness, and the unseen dimensions of the world we think we know? And, well, that's a question really worth thinking about.